Hello and welcome to another edition of the NFL Power Rankings podcast from the Chris Wessling Podcast Studio. I'm Dan Hansis, joined as I always am by the great Colleen Wolfe. What's up, Connie Fox?
You know, I'm not feeling that great today.
Why not?
I have a little bit of a fever. A Phillies fever.
Oh.
Hey!
As we discussed in the ramp up to today's program, baseball season's over.
And
I
For some
think
of us.
As a professional, you should keep your focus on professional football.
Oh, I can do both.
Can we turn the page?
I'm sorry.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm happy for you. Philadelphia fans really need something right now.
They do.
This is the Power Rankings podcast, where we go through 1 through 32 and figure out where the power truly lies in our league. And week 6 will forever, Connie, be remembered by everyone in the world, the civilized world, or me specifically, and maybe you if you agree with this take.
Me as well.
As the Sunday that broke the power rankings.
Nothing made sense.
Nothing made sense. It was a total atomic poop storm. And I was left to try to...
Sounds really bad.
Oh, I mean, that's the description.
That's a worst case scenario.
So I felt like week 7 was about picking up the pieces a little bit. And I'm not saying the league now makes sense, but it makes more sense than it did a week ago.
Well, now we have more to go off of. And as we progress through the season, I'm feeling less and less confident in teams like the Packers. I'm more and more worried about teams like the Bucks. I feel good about the Chiefs. Like, a lot of teams are starting to follow trends, and that feels like stability, whereas before it was just all over the place and it felt like the entire league was 3-3.
And at the very least, I feel good about the top 4 now, which I could not even see last week. So with that in mind, let's check out our tiers, our quadrants. You know, our producer, Drew, he gets in my ear and he goes, let's get to the first tier.
Yeah.
It's a quadrant.
Come on, Drew. Get it together.
It's a quadrant, Drew.
We're going to get him on the show.
Shawnee Kelly behind the glass. Our podcast producer, Shawnee, can you just tap, because I know he'll like this, tap Drew on the shoulder, invade his physical space, and say, it's a quadrant. So that will go up. Let's get to it. The top 8: Bills, Eagles, Chiefs. Nothing changes there. Those are the big 3, and they remain the big 3. Bills and Eagles on bye. Chiefs wiped out the Niners. Then you have the Cowboys up 2 to number 4. Bengals hold at number 5. We'll get to them in a minute. Giants up 1 to 6. Hard to believe. The Vikings down 3 to 7 off their bye. Waka waka. And the Ravens hold steady at number 8.
So real quick on the top 3, I do wonder how much you are itching to move the Chiefs up, because the Eagles are sitting there with their perfect record, and I wonder how much you're buying into it. Like, I feel like even on the ATN podcast, when you were asking the question whether or not teams were good, you didn't necessarily say that the Eagles were good. You just said that they had a perfect record. And I just wonder if you're waiting to drop them.
Oh, the Eagles are good. I think the Eagles are great. I think there are 3 great teams.
Okay.
And they are one of them. And I'm not gonna do Philly like that, even though you guys seem to be getting everything you want right now.
It's wonderful.
I dropped them out of the number 1 spot despite them not having a loss, just because I couldn't turn away from the fact in my mind that the Bills are the best team in football. But at 6-0 during their bye, it just didn't feel right to drop them down to number 3. That said, the Chiefs, if you put those 2 teams on a neutral field, yeah, I don't know if I'm going against Mahomes, but at this point, it was like, let's give the Eagles the edge. Let's get them back in action and see how they look. But yes, the Chiefs are – there's a big gap between the Chiefs and the number 4 team. But I say that because the Cowboys really helped me out, Connie, because I had the Vikings at 4 last week, and I never believed it. And that wasn't
really?
Yeah, that wasn't me doing like a bad job and not knowing what I'm doing on the power rankings, which is the case sometimes. It was because there was no number 4 team in the league. It literally didn't exist, but for the purposes
didn't they jump up like a lot of spots last week to the 4th spot?
Because somebody had to be there.
Okay.
But they weren't really the 4th best team in the league. They were just number 4. Listen, that might not make sense, but when the power rankings were broken, old Zeus had to still figure out a way to put some things together.
So you're gluing it back together, and you just decided that the Vikings would go up to 7 when they were on a bye. They didn't even do anything wrong.
Because they never were 4, even though they
wow.
were 4.
That is so heartbreaking.
It's okay. 7 is still good, too.
Okay.
Even though they're not really 7 either.
What?
They're probably like an 11 or 12. But this is a different year. It's a strange
You're a liar.
year. I'm trying to put things back together. The Cowboys are a real number 4 team, and I feel good about them because the Cowboys of yesteryear, and I mean last year and even going back to peak Romo era, it always seemed to be built a similar way, that they had this prolific, high-profile offense, and the years when the Cowboys were good, that's what everybody was talking about. And then the playoffs would come around, and either the offense would gag a little bit or not be quite as good as they were, say, in early November or in October, and then they would find ways to lose, and another season of disappointment in North Texas. But now this is a team with balance, Connie. You have Dak Prescott back, knocking off the rust and getting the win against the Lions. You have a running game that works as a two-headed monster. It's no longer, there's no more hand wringing about hand twisting also.
Yeah,
maybe
you can
painful.
twist your hands around.
About Zeke Elliott. No, him and Pollard are a good one too. They do different things. And then the defense, led by Micah Parsons, is elite.
Right.
That's a well-rounded team, and they are on the Eagles' level. They're not ahead of the Eagles, but they're not too far behind.
No, this is a team that's won 5 of 6 since that dreadful Week 1 game. But you have 3, based on the record, you have 3 strong teams in the NFC East, and we can get to the other teams coming up. I do want to get your thoughts on the Giants, but the defense of this Cowboys team is what is really scary. And I know you love them too because of the Zaddy factor, Mike McCarthy. Like, I feel like he kind of plays into that as well. But this defense is just such a game changer. 5 takeaways led to 21 points in this game. Now, I was a little disappointed, and maybe that's because I expect more of Dak Prescott because I didn't see it from him before he was hurt in Week 1 against the Bucs, and I didn't see what I thought I would see against a really bad, struggling Detroit defense. Like, I wished I saw a little bit more. I understand he's coming back from the injury, give him a little bit of time, but the offense is still having some issues. I need them to work it out, especially on 3rd down, but that defense can hold, and especially with the running game, they can get it done.
That's fair. There was a moment in the game, I think about 12 minutes to play, where Jamal Williams gets the ball at the Cowboys' 1-yard line, and if he goes over the goal line, Detroit's in the lead in Dallas, and this whole celebration of Dak being back could have been a totally different storyline coming out of that building, but Jamal Williams puts it on the ground for the first time ever. Cowboys recover, and then they end up turning 5 turnovers into 21 points, and that's the recipe. I mean, it's Jamal Williams had that ball knocked away. Jared Goff had the ball stripped away multiple times through multiple turnovers because the Cowboys are elite on defense. That travels into January. And again, the top 3, they're kind of in their own class. There's a gap. But the Cowboys, be careful, Connie. They can close that gap.
Listen, I'm not too worried. Jordan Lewis, though, by the way, he did run into Liz Frank. So
that harlot. That
she's
scorpion
back.
woman.
She's back. So, I mean, I hate it. And I'm not a big Dallas gal, but I hate that.
And you're a feminist.
This is
That was a nice little victory lap for Taylor.
Exactly. And he was right. And I wonder if we can continue to see this type of production from Tyler Boyd because he had a huge game, a career high, 155 receiving yards on 8 catches. Just a massive first quarter from him. And it's just really interesting to me that in an offense that has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, that Tyler Boyd can also stand out. Like, when they are playing like this, they really do look like the team that ended last season.
Ty Boyd's legit.
Yeah.
And T. Higgins is as good as any number 2 receiver in the league. And Jamar Chase kind of challenged him on the power rankings. That's what I connected to. A couple weeks ago, Zach Taylor, pop the hood and figure out how to get Jamar Chase, the big-time playmaker, back. And he's been the dude that we saw last year when he took over the league the last 2 weeks. So you add it all up. Oh, by the way, Cincinnati hasn't given up a second-half touchdown.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think that's right. I'm kind of trying to make sure I'm right about this. Maybe our producer behind the glass, Sean Kelly, can double check on that, put him to work. But I don't think they've given up a touchdown in the second half. So the defense is better. And Zach Taylor is kind of a target of derision on football Twitter, especially the scholarly set on Twitter, people that study the game and decide who's good and who's bad. Zach Taylor sometimes that's pointed to as, he's actually not good, even though his team went to the Super Bowl last year. And when they got off to the slow start, Zach Taylor's the problem here. Like he said, just you got to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be patient. And what they've been able to do, once the offensive line got some things ironed out, they're using a spread offense attack. And with that personnel and that quarterback, close to unstoppable.
And we get Monday Night Football with them. We get a primetime game on Halloween, a division game, too, against the Browns.
Good. Sean Kelly, I am correct. I'm being told.
Were you just telling yourself that you were correct?
No,
okay. I'm just making sure.
I am correct. The Bengals have not given up a touchdown in the second half. Let's move to Quadrant 2. The Tennessee Titans.
Look at them.
Speaking of have some patience.
Whew.
In a dog poop division, they've now won 4-2 and are in total control. Up 5 spots to 9. My Jets, 2 New York teams in the top 10 for the first time since 1986? I don't know.
Oh, it's been
Did
a
they
while.
have power rankings back then?
I'm sure they did.
Almost certainly not. They got the Rams up 1 spot to 11 on the bye. The Niners down a spot to 12 after that thumping to the Chiefs. The Raiders up 3 to number 13. That's another team I've kind of hung with, and hopefully they don't make me look bad. The Dolphins up 9 spots with Tua back in the lineup to 14. The Seahawks up 5 after another really good performance by their defense to 15. And then the Chargers, a big dip, down 6 spots. Where do you want to start here, Connie?
So the Titans are good. I was kind of fighting it all season, and I think they were sort of in a way too, but now they're on this 4-game winning streak, and I'm starting to believe. Their only losses are to the Giants and the Bills. Sweeping the Colts at this point doesn't look that impressive. I kept trying to make the Colts a thing. They're not a thing. It's not going to happen.
You're not alone on that.
That's just not going to happen. The Colts are not going to happen. So the AFC South, though, it's not great. So, I mean, this is a situation where the Titans are on a roll. They're able to run the ball with Derrick Henry, and obviously this defensive front was living in this game against the Colts.
Yeah, and they inadvertently, I mean, what a week 4, I believe, was their first matchup against the Colts. Beat them. Then they sweep them in week 7 and inadvertently end the Matt Ryan era, short as it was. And show the limitations of having a statue quarterback in the league right now, because Ryan had no ability to get away, led to the Andrew Adams pick 6 that really changed this game. And, yeah, I think the Titans, there's no sizzle really with the Titans, but this is what I like about Tennessee. They're battle-tested. They're well-coached. They have a quarterback who keeps things under control. Derrick Henry is still very much the big dog. Mm-hmm. And in the league, the way the league is this year, where there's so much, the middle class is so huge, like what's happening with the Giants, a team that can run the football, that's well coached, that can win close games, you're going to look up in January and they're going to be 11-6 or 12-5, and they might even have the first seed in the AFC, or certainly home game in the playoffs. So love it or hate it, you're going to see Tennessee in the playoffs again because they know how to win.
This is what they do. The wins, they aren't pretty. They're ugly. They need more offense on rhythm, for sure. Or wait, they need more rhythm on offense.
Either works.
Guys, I don't know if you know this about me. I am dyslexic, and I've been working through it for my entire life.
We're all very proud of you, Colin.
Thank you.
Yes.
I will say I wonder about Ryan Tannehill's ankle. He's progressing through that, got banged up in the game, so that is just something to watch. But their next 5 games include games against the Chiefs, the Packers, which I guess that doesn't matter anymore, and the Bengals, though, who are back certified into the top 5. Is that
Certainly.
where they were? 5?
They are number 5. I trust the Bengals at this point, but anyone that looks ahead at the schedule right now and is saying things like, oh man, tough schedule ahead, or even easy schedule ahead, it's not very easy to do that when 24 teams are kind of the same.
True.
But
the Chiefs and Bengals are good teams.
Yes, those teams certainly. Now for Power Moves, presented by Energize. Let's talk about my New York Jets.
Wow.
So, yes, they're up 3 spots to number
God.
10. Look where they were a month ago. Number 31.
Meteoric rise.
31 after week 4. Up to 26 after week 5. Up to 17 after week 6. Up to 13 after week 7. And, yes, now they have cracked the top 10. Certainly the first time since I've been doing this, Connie. It's been a meteoric rise. And, again, in this giant middle class, you can make a quick rise, especially when you win 4 games in a row.
I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried for you.
Okay.
that you have them in the top 10.
Okay. Do you disagree with the placement?
No, I think that I mean, I don't know. I think that they've had some really good wins. I like the way that they're running the ball, but obviously with Breece Hall getting hurt, I don't know how much James Robinson is going to be able to replace that production. I think that I love the trade, and I love what Joe Douglas has done. Robinson was excellent 2 years ago. Had over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, but he's a high volume back too, so you could use him as a 1-2 punch with Michael Carter. But I just worry that you're setting yourself up here to be disappointed when you have to drop them. Like maybe just be a little bit more concerned. Maybe just bump them up one, and then all of a sudden you're just like raising them up again.
Your logic makes sense, but that is not my duty as the power rankings guy.
I'm looking out for you.
Is to keep it real. I know it's a friend you're looking out for me, and that I respect. The Breece Hall injury is absolutely brutal. A few plays earlier, he breaks off a 62-yard touchdown run against the Broncos, and his top speed was about 21.75 miles per hour. At the moment, it was the fastest run by a running back all season. He literally looked like Barry Sanders shooting down the sideline. And I raced to Twitter, and oh, my God, Breece Hall is a star. As he's running down the field, Elijah Vera Tucker, the Jets do it all, rising star offensive lineman, is sprinting down the field and is the first one to meet him in the end zone. And by the end of that half, both those guys suffered season-ending injuries. And to me, I think it kind of ends for me the why not us portion of the proceedings for the Jets, which stinks as a Jets fan because all you want to do is have a special season like Cincinnati had or Philly a few years ago. I don't think that can happen now because Breece Hall was the central point of that offense. He was the superstar guy. He has that potential to be an instant superstar, and hopefully he will be next year. You take him out. James Robinson is just a guy. I think he was a nice pickup by Joe Douglas. I think Michael Carter ended up seeing more work in that backfield. But Vera Tucker is a guy that had played guard, left tackle, right tackle, and done them all well. So you have to now replace him, and I think it just puts a little bit of a cap on the season. I'm gone from being quietly, why not us, to, all right, let's see if we could squeeze out 4 or 5 more wins, maybe end the playoff drought, and then if Zach Wilson shows some growth, the season is a success. But that's frustrating because Jets fans deserve the chance to just dream through this month and into November and December. I feel like it was a bit of a reality check.
I disagree, though, because I think that James Robinson has a high ceiling because we've seen it before. And he had no control over Travis Etienne coming in and being a star for Jacksonville. And the fact that you just mentioned how large the middle class is in the NFL. Like, there are not very many good teams. And the Jets could continue to build on this. And, yeah, James Robinson is not going to be Breece Hall, but he might be able to fill some of that production. And I think that Brian Daboll is, Robert Saleh. I'm getting the New York's mixed up there. Jeez. I think that Robert Saleh.
Did Aunt Colleen just come out? There's a 74-year-old grandmother / aunt that lives within Colleen that comes out at any moment.
She's like, hello, what are you guys doing out here? I just think that the offense, they might be able to scheme it up and might be able to get around it.
I hope you're right, but maybe that is me protecting myself, knowing full well how much the team means to me. Number 13, let's head to the Twilight Zone where the Las Vegas Raiders, Connie, move up 3 spots with their win over the Texans. And, no one's going to be throwing bouquets at the feet of any team for beating Houston. But at the same time, I thought it was nice to see them get a win after all those painful losses coming out of their bye, and with a soft schedule ahead, or what seems like a soft schedule, you might start stacking some wins here and really get back into the race.
They needed this game. I mean, if they lost this game, they would have been dropped to what? Where would you have dropped them?
If they got beat by the Texans, they'd be probably around 22, 23.
Okay, so this is a massive difference for them.
It's about a 10-spot swing.
But I thought that this was a big step for them, that Derek Carr, he looked efficient in this game. Josh Jacobs, go off. He is like the life jacket.
That's what it's about.
For this entire offense. I just loved that they declined his 5th-year option. And he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Watch me. Watch what I do. 143 rushing yards on 20 carries. 3 touchdowns. I love this. He joined Marcus Allen with his 5th career game with 100 rushing yards and multiple touchdowns. Like, this is a guy who you can build around if he is producing at this level. Now, their next 6 games, they have the Saints, the Jags, the Colts, the Broncos, the Seahawks, the Chargers. I mean, as you just said, I know you said it's not great to look ahead at the schedule, but these are winnable. A lot of these are winnable games. I feel
agree.
like it's a soft schedule, so they could be moving up.
All right, where else do we want to go in this quadrant?
You want to go to the Dolphins?
Sure, let's talk Dolphins.
They stopped the bleeding, which was nice. Snapped a 3-game losing streak. I was happy about that. That the defense, they were opportunistic, came into the game with only 1 interception, and then they left with 3. That was nice.
I've never been sold on Tua, and I'm still not sold on him. I'm happy he got through this game healthy. Not so happy he put his shoulder down on some scrambles.
What was that? Why can't he slide?
I know. I don't know. It's one of those things. But he also very nearly could have thrown 5 interceptions in this game.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's not like me just throwing out a number. Watch this game. He threw 1, and there were 4 more that were very catchable. So he needs to be better. And you don't throw it out, but you separate that Ravens comeback where they just were unstoppable in the fourth quarter. This team scores 16 to 21 points every week.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was just so surprised that Tua came out and looked really good at first. The ball was coming out quickly. He was connecting with his receivers, and then all of a sudden it just fell off. And the timing was off. Everything looked off with the offense in general. He just looked really rusty. So I don't know. With all of those would-be picks, you just have to think that Pittsburgh, if they could have just caught a couple of those, they would have won this game.
Yeah, and they did jump up 9 spots because I kind of had that they were kind of existing.
9 spots they went up?
Yeah, they were kind of existing in purgatory with Tua out, and now that he's back and they got a win, they are absolutely in the mix. They're in that playoff, the group of teams that are on the playoff fringe. So, but I do need to see more from the offense. Here's the good news for them. They get the Lions next week. I like their chances there. Finally, let's talk about the Seahawks.
Okay.
They're at 15. I'm kind of into the Seahawks now.
I think you should have put the Seahawks higher. I think you should have put them above the Dolphins. I feel like moving the Dolphins up 9 spots was aggressive for a team that you're not that sold on.
That's perhaps fair.
I can tell that you like the Seahawks, and you're not wrong. They could maybe make a run, which I would have told you were absolutely insane if you told me that in the offseason with Geno Smith leading the show. But I don't know. This is they're in sole possession of first place in the NFC West. Did not see that one coming.
Did not see that coming. You're a liar if you did. And I think the offense, obviously, I think is one of the biggest surprises in the league this year. Geno has played well almost every week. Rashad Penny was a breakout dude, and then he suffers a season-ending injury. Then Kenneth Walker steps up, and he has been playing big time, 168 yards on the ground. But I think the reason why they're jumping 5 spots here is because the defense, which had been as bad as any in the league this side of Detroit, entering week 6, has now delivered back-to-back good performances, which makes me think maybe they've turned the corner on that end of the ball with Pete Carroll. And then you have a team, again, in a wide-open league. Yeah, why couldn't Seattle win 10 games this year?
I'm really interested in their game next week against the Giants. And you mentioned the Seahawks defense. They had 3 sacks, 2 takeaways in this game. And the fact that DK Metcalf, he went down, little worried about that. I don't think it is as serious as some people thought.
It's not going to be a surgery situation, they're saying,
Correct.
but it's not clear how long DK will be out.
But they were able to get Marquise Goodwin involved in this game. 4 catches, 2 of them were touchdowns. And that one on 3rd and 15, I mean, it was his first touchdown of the season. It was beautiful. And then he had another one after that. So it was just nice to see them be able to replace the production from DK.
All right. 2 quadrants down, 2 to go.
Oh, my goodness.
We're going to take a break, and we'll dive into the rest of the power rankings. Stay right there. All right, we're back. Let's check out Quadrant 3. The Patriots, a tough one on Monday Night Football, but I keep the faith. I keep them at 17 because everything else beneath them, not doing it for me. At 18, you got the Bucs down 9 spots. The Packers down 4 after another disappointing performance by their offense to 19. The Cards at 20, up 6 spots after their Thursday night showing. The Saints, after their Thursday night showing down 2 to 21. The Falcons down 4 to 22. The Bears up 6 to 23, and the Steelers down 2 to 24. Where should we start here, Connie?
I'm pretty sure I want to start right at the top of that quadrant with the Patriots. They lose the game in prime time. Everyone's watching, and you don't drop them.
And sometimes you wake up in the morning and you think to yourself, did I get that one quite right? Yeah, I got it right.
Totally. You feel really good about it.
Feel great about it.
Your fingers are definitely crossed.
No, the Patriots had a really bad night, but they looked really good leading up to Monday night, and I think Bill, not that I would ever challenge the genius of Bill Belichick, but I think he kind of opened up a can of worms.
Yeah.
That should have just stayed on the shelf here with how he's handling his quarterbacks, giving Mac Jones 3 possessions, and then pulling him in favor of Bailey Zappi. It was almost like Bill was affected by the crowd and how they were reacting to the situation of Foxborough, which I would have never guessed.
No, it was just so shocking to see because that is so not Bill Belichick's style at all. Is Bill okay? It just feels like from the beginning of the season, there was this wishy-washy who is going to be calling plays, is going to be this guy or this guy, and now we're getting it with the quarterback, though. This is bizarre. The fact that you pull Mac Jones after 3 drives and the interception, and yes, Bailey Zappi provided a spark when he first went in, but then it all fell apart in the second half, so it kind of blew up in his face.
Yeah, and I think Bill deserves, and by Bill we mean Bill Belichick. I don't know
Bill,
why we're so friendly with this guy that we've never met. But have you met Bill Belichick?
I have, but just through very, very
what were the dinner parties like?
Oh, my God. Come on. Me and Bill, we go way back. He's like my uncle, actually. His family.
I think he deserves a ton of credit for getting this show on the road, figuring out the new offense with his coaching staff. But this one struck me as odd. Odd that the reports that came out that his plan was to use both quarterbacks, like it was 1993 or something.
And he said at halftime he was going to use both in the second half, and he only used one.
Right, and it struck me as odd, and it makes me think there's more going on here than we realize, potentially connected to Mac Jones. So this is just something to track. And you're not going to get anything out of Bill or anyone else in that building out of fear for retribution or death. So we just have to see how it plays out on the field. But that was a very odd, very strange Monday night.
It felt very knee-jerk, and I just was wondering maybe Mac Jones needs more time with the ankle sprain. Maybe there's something going on that we're just not aware of. But the fact that the Patriots defense also didn't show up last night, that was another thing.
Well, obviously, this is where I'm going to turn it to the Bears a little bit because, yes, New England's D struggled in this game, especially against the run, especially on third down. But I want to credit the Bears. I mean, they're starting to resemble a real football team.
It's amazing.
And they're making the rise. They're up 6 spots from 29. And just like we were talking about with the Jets, you may say, oh, come on, did you see the way they played? Put them up into number 15. You have to have a little patience in the power rankings game. You need to see a team really start to stack performances, and they will rise quickly. So I'm really interested to see what happens.
So you think the Falcons are a better team than the Bears?
Overall, they have been. In week 7, one sample. No, certainly not. But it's big picture and little picture combined. It's nebulous, as Michael Scott would say. But Justin Fields making plays, both with his legs and his arm, and looking more comfortable. Still gets hit way too much and takes too many unnecessary shots. But otherwise, if you're a Bears fan, you're feeling pretty good.
Well, they snapped a 3-game losing streak, and this is exactly how Justin Fields should look. This is the game. This is the skill set that is his that they should work around. It felt like this game they kind of threw everything away and stopped overthinking it and let Justin Fields play the way that he should play and that he was meant to play. And that's the way that the offense works. I do agree that he's taking way too many hits, but I just think overall this is the way that we should go forward, that they should go forward, the Bears, and try and build the offense around him. They have 10 more games to evaluate what they have in him, and this was a nice start because if they can build off of this, maybe he stays in place for the future and the rebuild doesn't have to take as long.
Yeah, I'm totally on board. I'm on board with Justin Fields, and they need to continue to develop him and not make this like a get better or else year. I think he's already shown to me there's enough there to work with, and his ability to make plays and scramble and pick up huge yards is stuff that you see more and more in the NFL now. You look at the Bucs, a team that we have at 18 now, and I never would have thought that this would be the conversation we'd be having at the end of October. They're down 9 spots. And Tom Brady, the opposite of Justin Fields, can't move. He can move around in the pocket, but can't scramble and pick up those extra yards. So when there's issues with the passing game, as there have been all season in Tampa, he doesn't have that to fall back on. And I think that's a huge difference between Brady, Matt Ryan, these type of guys in the league, and the younger players that can move.
Man, I can't get the play, the wide open Mike Evans drop out of my head. And then after that, when Brady overthrew him, there was a bounce pass at one point that Brady threw just like into the dirt way in front of, I think it was Mike Evans. It just, the fact that Brady wasn't able to connect with Evans, Godwin, and then Russell Gage in the end zone. It was 3 straight incomplete passes right there within 10 yards. Like, this was such a bad showing for the Bucs, especially against a team that just fired their head coach and just shipped off 2 players, one of them being their absolute superstar in Christian McCaffrey.
Doesn't
and they were
make
able
any
to run
sense.
the ball. It was so weird.
The league doesn't make any sense, and it's destabilizing to see Tom Brady and the Bucs struggle the way they have. It's destabilizing to see Aaron Rodgers and the Packers be unable to figure things out. I got them down 4 spots to 19, and it's just not getting better. And I don't understand.
And it's not gonna with the Bills coming up.
Yeah, I just don't understand their philosophy on offense, because they don't have the dudes to be a high impact passing offense. They just don't. Like, it's not there right now. But you still have these 2 really good, maybe great running backs, and time again, there's something going on with Matt LaFleur. He refuses to establish a run. He won't drive this offense to the running game. Why not?
It is so. It's
Is he
so
afraid
bizarre.
of Aaron Rodgers?
That is your strong point. But you would think that Aaron Rodgers just wants to win. And I mean, I guess maybe it's an ego thing, but
I was careful not to say that, because it's like,
well, that's the only explanation.
Is Mike LaFleur not making this, running the offense through the rushing game, out of deference or fear or intimidation with Aaron Rodgers because he's such a massive figure in that organization at this point? I don't think that's what it is necessarily, but it certainly is strange that they have not been able to shift gears and really drive the offense. Even Aaron Jones, how many times have we looked at the box score at the end of these games, and you have Aaron Jones not getting more than 10, 12 carries?
It doesn't make any sense.
And A.J. Dillon, one of the great thumpers in the league, on these 3rd and 4th and shorts, they're throwing the ball to Romeo Doubs and whoever else, and you're not getting the results. They're frustrating.
They have losses to the Giants, the Jets, the Commanders, and now they're facing the most explosive offense in the league that are coming off a bye in the Buffalo Bills in prime time. That's just such a recipe for an absolute blow-up.
Okay, here's the thing.
Not a glow-up, a blow-up.
A blow-up. I think we could get a spicy Aaron Rodgers performance in that game.
I want that to happen.
But he needs help. So that's me kind of just saying Aaron Rodgers is awesome, so everything will be okay. And that worked more when Devontae Adams was around. But he is the reigning back-to-back MVP, playing in prime time against the cream of the crop in our league. Okay.
Maybe
Aaron.
Goody makes a call.
Maybe Goody makes a call.
Okay, here we go. Is it kind of wrong that I would like to lob off the back end of these power rankings and just tell them to like go home for the season and prepare for next year? Because some of these games, like, they're just, it's tough to watch with these teams.
This is your first year on the power rankings beat.
I know.
You think it's dark now. Wait until December.
Oh, all right. The Colts. It's dark in Indianapolis. Matt Ryan had been. Oh yeah. Wait. Do you want me to go through?
Yeah, I teed you up perfectly, and then it's almost like
I'm distracted. Let's go to 25 here. You got the Browns.
You had your chance, Colleen.
They stayed pat there. The Colts moved down 5 spots. They're at 26. The Broncos at 27, down 3. The Commanders at 28.
Take
up
command
2.
already.
Oh my goodness. At 29, you have the Jags down 2. The Panthers only up 2 spots to 30. The Lions, our poor Lions, down 3 to 31. And then the Texans down another spot to 32.
Remember when we did the Hard Knocks
I remember.
podcast, Colleen, and those great times we had together, and Jamal Williams was the happy-go-lucky dude. putting the ball on the carpet there with a chance to take the lead in
That was
Gerald World
awful.
in the fourth quarter. That was pain. Where should we start here?
Let's start with the Colts, I think, because Matt Ryan, the fact that he was coming off his best game as a Colt against the Jags in week 6 and then shows up here and it's just nonstop picks, and now he's benched for the season. And I kind of can't believe it. Like, for the entire season, to me, that feels like a desperation move. And I guess they needed it after being swept now by the Titans. But, like, Jonathan Taylor only got 10 carries in this game. Like, it didn't matter that Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines were back. They still lost. Their offensive line is still bad. It's not totally Matt Ryan's fault, but he's obviously not helping them. And so now they're going to go forward with Sam Ehlinger. How does that make sense?
I don't know.
Make it make sense.
Well, here's the thing. Like, you follow the breadcrumbs on some of these things, and you just wonder who's calling the shots, because they invested a lot of resources to get Matt Ryan in the building. He's coming off that game where he really played well when they had to pass the ball constantly, and they won in a comeback. And then he has a bad game, looks old again, looks overmatched against the division rival, a very frustrating loss, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And you just, like, you want to follow the breadcrumbs, and it might be going all the way up to the owner's door. And when you get into that situation where there's a frustrated, angry owner, and we know this is the case because you remember how last season ended and the reporting that was out there after they blew their season with Carson Wentz against the Jaguars, the worst team in the league. Jim Irsay summoned everyone, the decision makers, the coach, the GM, to his office like at midnight, the night of the Week 18 collapse. And Carson Wentz was gone in short order. And then they went and got Matt Ryan. And now, my point being, Frank Reich, Chris Ballard are in very shaky ground. And this just feels like an organization that is in desperation mode as they continue to look for the Andrew Luck replacement.
It doesn't make any sense to me based on last year before that 2-game collapse at the end of the season. They looked like superstars. They looked like the team that no one wanted to face in the playoffs. I remember one of the Thursday night games, Jonathan Taylor just went off. He was having an incredible season last year, and now this team doesn't even resemble that team from last season.
Speaking of Wentz, so gone in Indy, maybe gone in Washington now because Taylor Heineke played some hero ball down the stretch and a win for the Commanders. Yeah, I only jumped him up 2 spots because I'm not really buying in necessarily, even against the Packers, who are a name-brand victory, but we know where the Packers are as a team right now. But I really want to give just some love to Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, he's back.
He doesn't fill up the box score because his team doesn't allow him to do so. But if you put McLaurin on a team that had a higher functioning quarterback/offense, I'm convinced he'd have some of the best stats in the league. He's a stud, and he saw it. He won that game with Heineke late.
He actually plays well with Taylor Heineke, and this is what I mentioned on the Around the NFL podcast last week, that maybe they could be a little spicy with Taylor Heineke in the mix, and maybe Terry McLaurin would be a little scary.
Did you say that last week?
I said it last week.
Connie got it right.
I know, but this was a huge second half for him.
And Connie has done it again.
She is back. Who wants a sandwich?
Who wants to go bird watching?
I have been bird watching. There was an Oriole in my backyard the other day.
Fascinating.
It was.
One more team. Let's talk one more team. Okay. You pick it.
Let's do the Panthers. All right. Are they back in the division race after one win at 2-5?
No.
They could be.
Of course not.
That division is no good. Is that division full of bums?
That's gone batty, that division. Yeah, I thought that was just a nice win for Steve Wilkes, who everyone in that organization above him, and many of the coaches perhaps and players even, are turning the page and looking ahead to 2023. So to lose Christian McCaffrey in a trade and then rip off 176 yards on the ground to upset Tom Brady and the Bucs, it had to feel nice. I'm not going to go crazy about what it means for their 2022. They're built very much to, let's face it, they're engineered right now to lose many games and have a top 3 pick. But these guys are players that are competing and want to feel good about themselves, so good for the Panthers.
I was surprised how well they ran the ball, and I'm wondering if P.J. Walker remains the starter.
Sure, why not? This is a very much, like to my point, a developmental season. You know Baker's not the dude. Sam Darnold had his chance last year. So as long as P.J. Walker shows himself to be a guy that can move the chains and run the offense proficiently, just ride with him. I don't think there's almost nothing that P.J. Walker can do short of turning into the next Geno Smith, which is a weird sentence, but that's 2022, that would keep him in the plans as the starter going forward. But because I think Carolina's going to draft a quarterback next year no matter what, early in that draft. But he definitely earns a place on that roster if he gives us something here.
Okay, just out of curiosity, before we say goodbye, I do want to know, out of the rankings this week, which team did you have the most difficult time landing in a spot? Which team moved around the most before you finally settled?
Yes.
Did you have one? Maybe you didn't.
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Let's go with, it was the Jets, actually.
Really?
Because the Jets have won enough lately to warrant that top 10 bump, but it was so crushing, the injuries and what that means to the long-term future. And then all of a sudden, James Robinson, in the middle of the writing process of the power rankings, which you can get at NFL.com, he's added to the team, and you have to calibrate that. So they were kind of jumping between 10 and 14 throughout the Monday writing process. So there's your answer.
Well, I think you nailed it. Great job this week. Hopefully we'll get some more answers and some more trends as we continue on.
Yes, and thank you. Did I hit your face?
No, but now I'm ripping up your rankings.
Thank you to everybody for watching. We will be back next Tuesday, and check out the Power Rankings podcast, obviously, wherever you get your podcasts. And Connie, you can check her on NFL Network and the Around the NFL podcast every Tuesday.
That's right.
That's it.
Later.
Next Tuesday. Heed the call.